want you to imagine you're standing on the deck of a ship somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's pitch black. There's no stars. There's no lights. It's just you and the ocean and a handful of people depending on you to make sure you're making the right call. It's moments like that, whether it's medical emergency, security threats, or the unknown, that there's no room for guessing. You need training. You need instincts. And above all, you need resilience. And that kind of pressure where decisions matter and preparation saves lives isn't just for ships at sea. It's exactly what CISOs need and cybersecurity professionals face every day. And today, our guest has lived in both of those worlds, and I can't wait to introduce her to you. Yes, this is Social Engineering Podcast, the Security Awareness Series, episode 305. I'm Chris Hadnaghi, CEO and founder of Social Engineer LLC, the Innocent Lives Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering, and this podcast has been around since 2009. As always, the sponsor for this is Social Engineer, our company, and I'm really excited. I hope you guys are checking out the Human Behavior Conference for us in November. It's a really amazing conference that we're going to be blending human behavior and cybersecurity together. Go check out humanbehaviorcon.com for more information. As always, if you want to be in our Slack channel, just look at the link below and we'll be more than happy to invite you in there. It's all about social engineering each and every day. We have tons of people in there talking about the topic, family friendly and legal. And I invite you all to check out innocentlivesfoundation.org. If you're not familiar with our mission, we help law enforcement geolocate people who traffic children and create child abuse material. And we've been around for 8 years now, doing over 570 cases with global law enforcement. So you can support us through donations or your efforts if you would like to at innocentlivesfoundation.org. And last but not least, if you'd like the music is none other than Clutch. So go to clutchmerch.com and give them some love because they allow us to use their music for the podcast. Keep your ideas coming in, your themes, your topics, the guest suggestions that you have. Those really do help us, and it helps us to find new and exciting topics to have on the show. Give us a thumbs up and a like if you like this episode. Now, let me introduce our guest today because we're really excited to have Julie Chatman on. She's a distinguished cybersecurity executive with over 2 decades of experience in cybersecurity strategy, risk management, and AI governance. She began her career on that ship we talked about in the U.S. Navy, serving on active duty as a hospital corpsman specializing in medical laboratory science and tech. Her transition to cybersecurity began at the FBI, where strong mentorship shaped her approach to leadership, problem solving, and talent development. She currently serves as the Deputy CISO for Finance at the Virginia Information Technologies Agency, the VITA, where she is focused on driving risk reduction across state agencies. The role is part of a strategic engagement through her company, ResilientTech Advisors. She also leads CyberPath Coaching, where she draws on her experience as an active CISO to mentor cybersecurity professionals and accelerate their growth. Julie, it is awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. I love these conversations. I love talking about cybersecurity and risk.
And I do too, because there's so many people who want to get into this industry and they don't know how. So I always start this episode off with this question. I mean, going from Navy to FBI to being a CISO, how did that transition occur? Like, I can't imagine you woke up one day and said, "This is what I'm going to do with my life."
No, I'm a bit of a wanderer. I like to be informed and entertained, hopefully both at the same time. And I think if I were to summarize my why and my reasoning for making those transitions, that would be it. Just I have a hungry brain, right? And I'm always wanting to unlock puzzles and make things better, solve challenges, and also mix and mingle with extremely intelligent people. So cybersecurity actually checks all those boxes, you know?
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so let me ask you this question because we get this a lot on this episode. One of the things about being a CISO that is I hear, because I work with them, but I've never been one. So every time we have a CISO on this episode, we hear the challenges of getting the upper level management or the stakeholder management in line to agree to all kind of support and to have that communication. What advice would you give to CISOs who are having that challenge on how to, like, the importance of that and how to master that?
I think this is a really important question because from the other side of it, CISOs are always asking, why won't these folks listen to me? You know, people at all levels in cybersecurity in the community ask, why won't business people and marketing people and HR listen to me? Maybe a lot less with legal, but this is always a challenge. And so basically the framing of the problem is that when we, as the cybersecurity community and group of professionals, talk about cybersecurity initiatives, the responses will range from skepticism to resistance. And there'll be two brands of resistance: passive resistance and active resistance, right? The fallout that we experience is that we are perceived as a blocker. The organization doesn't buy into what we're saying, and we are mushroomed, kept in the dark, and fed fertilizer, right?
I never heard that one. And I really like, it's a sad but truthful analogy.
Yes. So that is the framing. And so I can answer this with a tale from the FBI. I inherited a program which was a really solid program. However, people were avoiding interacting with this program. So people were avoiding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because the program was notorious for catching people for what they were doing wrong. Okay? The program was notorious for lobbing the word no or the phrase, "you can't do that," right? Meanwhile, in the FBI, you probably really familiar with the mission, right?
Yeah.
This is not necessarily a money-making mission. It's a life-saving mission. And even in a situation like that, some of the cybersecurity professionals lived down to the stereotype of being the office of no, being the blocker. I even had someone I looked up to brag to me about being able to tell someone in a field office that they couldn't do something. It gave them a little bit of a feeling of power.
Yeah.
And I think that with some of us, we have that type of personality. And I'm here to say that it's time for some self-interrogation. It's time for some introspection, because cyber is a business enabler. So I think it's important to turn your mind to understand that cyber is a business enabler, just like accounting, just like legal, just like HR, all of these things, right? We are there to support the business. Without those projects and activities that you're attempting to block, you won't have a job. You won't have anything to protect. You have to figure out a way to get to yes. You have to be clever. We are all clever, but let's exercise that muscle, right? Clever people go into cyber. You can figure out a way to get something done that's in compliance, right?
Yeah.
Before you tell your stakeholder no, try to get to the heart of what they're trying to accomplish for the business. And you can say something like, and this was my favorite line in the FBI, people would come to me and say, "Julie, am I allowed to do that?" And I would not answer that question, right? That's not for me to answer. So basically, hey, what you're trying to do doesn't appear to be in line with the policy, but let's figure out if there's another way to do it that's in compliance. And failing that, I'll help you fill out the exception paperwork. Heck, I'll even go to the meeting with you to the risk official. We'll sit there together and explain, right? Sometimes we get all the way there and the risk official says no. But what I've done there is built a bridge with a stakeholder.
Yep.
And this stakeholder will not go around me. They will come to me.
Yeah.
Because they see me as an advocate and an ally.
I love this.
That is how I built that program. That is how, and other things too. I was also entertaining. I would bring martini glasses with candies in them to the meetings, or, different little surprises so that I would break the mold of the stereotypical hard-nosed cyber person, right?
Yep.
Get people to understand that you care about what they're doing, and figure out a way to connect and figure out a way to support them in their role without putting the organization at risk. That's the first thing. Yeah,
we do adversarial simulations here. So like a pen test, right? And sometimes we approach the company, the people who are going to be tested, they hate me already. They're like, "You're just here to show my boss how stupid I am." And I'm like, no. So we have this phrase that we came up with, and it fits what you said, that I'm here not to be your adversary, but your advocate. So you don't want a nation state to show your boss the holes that you have in your network. You want me to do it, so that way we can fix it, right? And he's like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, yeah, I'm not here to tell your boss you're dumb. I'm here to be the guy that makes you look like $1 million job because we're going to patch all this stuff. And that right away, what you just said connects that bridge. So I love that messaging.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another part of that, which is when you are asking for more resources. So that the examples we were just talking about is like people trying to get their work done and maybe, being compliant with the guardrails that we put in place. This is a different part of, an answer to your question. This is about getting what you need for your program. So often we are seen as a cost center. We are seen as not generating value. Okay. And so when we go to the table and during the budget cycle and we ask for more money for tooling and for people, it's usually like, I don't think so, right? Nothing happened last year. You protected it okay with what you got. So the way whenever I make a request, I usually get it. And I know that's a big claim for a CISO, but it hasn't failed me yet. Basically, what I do is if I'm talking to the CFO, I have my conversations around the value, the money. How much money am I saving by doing XYZ? And yes, I've done my due diligence and I have descoped some of the tools. We were double paying for functionality. So by the way, I saved $100,000 on this. I want you to know that I'm fiscally responsible. So we're making eye contact and we're relatable already, right? We're relating. And then by the time I come back around with my request, they already have in my mind that I'm fiscally responsible, So I already planted the seed. So then when I get there to ask, then I talk about, well, if we have a penalty around this, it'll cost 10 times more than the prevention. So we might as well just go ahead and get this because it's almost like a coupon. We're saving money here, It's anytime I'm demonstrating value to the CFO, I try to convert it into money, either saving it or avoiding spending it.
Yep.
Right.
Smart.
It could be the penalties, like when you work with an organization in a highly regulated industry, there's a dollar figure associated with each oops that you make. So I try to communicate in terms that this person can understand. If I'm talking to the COO, I talk about efficiencies and I convert that to dollars. If I'm talking to legal or even the CEO, I might talk about our reputation. I'm protecting our reputation and our revenue, the 2 R's, Yeah. I kind of talk like a business person. I don't start talking about immutable storage and web application firewalls in mixed company.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to do. So it's being relatable, again, but in a different way, speaking the language of the executive that you are attempting to influence, showing that you understand and care about the things they care about. And then your request all of a sudden is, hey, drop by my office anytime. I always get what I need.
Yeah. What I love about that is that you're not using the FUD method, right? The fear, uncertainty, doubt that I hear so many people use, right? You're not like coming in and going, look, we're going to get breached if you don't give me this $100,000 in my budget, and then causing that, thing where I love that it's very reasonable, but you're speaking the language that they want, not expecting them to understand you. That's very self-aware, in my opinion.
I think Dale Carnegie wrote about it in his book.
Right? He did.
Or it's also like some sort of like ancient secret, like seek first to be understood, to understand before seeking to be understood. Kind of like that.
Yep.
It's that fear, uncertainty, and doubt thing, like that's a real concern for people in the cyber community because Chief Information Security Officer also has another name, and that's Chief Scapegoat.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, like some people are not reasonable. The methods that I am talking about may not work on some people because they have been burned by whoever they dealt with before in the cybersecurity seat. They are skeptical of you. You have to earn their trust, like even more than normal.
Yeah.
Or even after all of this happens, people may still decide not to fund something or not to protect something. In that case, because it's not my risk to accept. So I usually write something up and I say, hey, I just need you to sign off on accepting this risk. Now, usually that opens up another conversation.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's resourcing there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not my risk to accept. It's a business risk. So, I said I needed to protect you. You don't, you're not funding the protection. So I need you to sign this and we're going to upload it into the GRC tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a very smart way without, you're not threatening, right? But you're letting them know that you're taking this seriously because this is your job. Yeah, I can't tell you, I would never, people like you who can do the job well, I have so much respect for you because I don't think I'd ever be a CISO. Because it is like, as soon as something bad happens, you know what head's rolling. You know who's getting it, right?
Yeah, the average lifespan of a CISO in an organization, I think the last time they did a survey, it was 18 months. That is about 4 times shorter than any other person with a C in their title.
18
And don't get me
months.
started about the fact that the C in the CISO isn't the same as the other Cs. It's usually just one step down. Wow. You're reporting to another C person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, another question that comes in a lot on this topic is about AI, right? Right now, I think everyone's thinking about AI.
Yes.
And in our world here at Social Engineer, we see it being used by the attackers, like it's making the threat actor seem 1,000% better than it was even a year ago. So in your world as a CISO, how are you seeing AI being used both as an enabler for the crime against your organizations, but also as a support for defense?
Yeah, AI is incredible. It is such an amazing tool for both the criminal and the good guys, right? I think it's when I first started out, right? And this is going towards a question we got about social engineering. There are 2 ways, and I won't do a spoiler, but there are 2 ways that AI is being used in the attacks. And one is to trick human beings, right? With social engineering.
Yeah.
The second is this adaptive malware, which is kind of scary. Where, people are talking about it. I haven't seen it in the wild that much, but it is definitely coming. So those are the 2 main ways that AI is being used to enable attacks, like, fooling humans and then also adapting malicious code on the go.
Yeah.
As far as defense, there's a lot of the vendors that are putting AI as an enabler, not necessarily as a replacement for the human beings, but an enabler to reduce noise, like signal noise, enable more efficient operations, and then surfacing bigger things to the human beings, right? So you can actually do more with less staff on your team if you have a certain level of AI capability in your detection and defense and response. So for a small, lean and mean organization, AI is giving hope, right?
Yeah.
For the human operator, it's taking care of the lower level stuff so you're not fatigued and you can handle the big things. So it's good. With AI as well, you have the email defense. There's just so many great things about it.
Yeah.
I think it's important for operators to be trained in AI and to understand it, to optimize the way that AI helps us as defenders protect what matters most.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 ways that I see AI.
Yeah. I mean, we noticed it here. We actually found a threat actor group in the country of Georgia that was using an AI-based program to change their accents. So they sounded American when they were doing phishing calls, right?
Yes.
But then, like you said, I love the fact that you can dump a mass amount of data inside of AI, and it can sort it and parse it way faster than a group of humans could. So it makes the humans more efficient if you use it as a tool, not as a replacement. Yes. So I love that, for both sides. But
we have to remember, there's really nothing that fully replaces a human mind, and at least not yet. People are predicting that AI can reach that, but it's still several years away. And the computing power and the temperatures at which these things have to operate is kind of a disincentive for it at the moment, right?
Yeah.
But operators need to be educated and well-versed in AI. I remember being in some conversations with CISOs where they felt like it was hype. That was months and months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hype. It's not going away. Their argument is that a lot of the AI startups are selling vaporware. Understood.
Yeah.
But the attackers are leveraging AI in social engineering and then in the adaptive malicious code. So we have to be educated. We have to be prepared. And then if we're using tools, AI tools, we need to understand it so that we know what the shortcomings and shortfalls may be. They are an assistant. They're not going to do our work for us. So that's what I wanted to underscore.
Yeah, I love it. So we started this new thing with guests coming on. We go to LinkedIn and we talk about the guests, how excited we are to have them on, and then ask the fans, do they have any questions that they want? So we got a couple for you. The first one is from Arisa, and she said, is there any challenge in your career that you can share with us that helped you grow as a person? And as a leader, what soft skills does she recommend for future leaders? So let's break that up into two. So first, are there any challenges in your career that you could share that helped you grow as a person?
Absolutely. I mean, I can answer it all at once.
Okay.
It is two different questions, but I think one, it's like a Venn diagram where there's overlap there. So I will share this. One of the hardest chapters in my career was navigating situations, and this was at first, navigating situations where I was both underestimated and undermined. And I'm going to pause there. I'm going to repeat those words: underestimated and undermined. And this isn't because of my work. It transparently, Chris, it was because I didn't fit the mold of who is typically expected and seen in technology leadership. Yeah. Right? We still have a problem with that even today, where certain folks are automatically assumed to be competent and capable and others the opposite. And I definitely fall into that because of my demographics. Okay. So undermining and underestimation happened early. And I had to learn how to stand firm, how to protect my voice without necessarily raising it, and how to build influence, especially in rooms where the inclination was to silence it. Okay. Yeah. So this experience forced me to develop 3 soft skills that I swear by. Are you ready for them?
I am. going to take notes. So go ahead.
The first one is empathy. And it's strategic empathy, right? It's not just being kind. It's reading the room, knowing when to push and knowing when to pause. Okay? Putting yourself, and this I think makes a cybersecurity practitioner stand out among all other cyber and technology practitioners. When the software engineers are building a product, they use personas. But I don't think cybersecurity teams use personas. And I think we should. Who is our customer? Because everyone's our customer, everyone. Put the different categories of customers. And what's their day like? What are they most likely to fall for? And talk to them in those ways. So strategic empathy, but also as a leader, understanding the types of leaders and colleagues that you're dealing with. And again, when to push and when to pause. Yeah. So I hope that's helpful. So that's the first one.
That's very
So I'm ready to share the second one.
Okay.
All right. The second one is, especially in leadership, boundary setting. This can be tough, right? You have to be brave. But boundaries actually preserve relationships, right? And there's a whole lot of studies on that. But boundary setting, especially in leadership, is essential. It's essential to be clear about what you will and will not tolerate. I don't think any further explanation is needed there.
No, I love it. I love it.
The third one is narrative control. You have to own your own story, and you have to shape how others perceive your role in it, right? You have to think, this goes back to the first one, which is empathy. How are people likely to see things? A lot of times when people are apologizing for something, they always say, well, my intention, that wasn't my intention. But if we were to write an algebraic expression, it would start with the word intention, and then it would have a less than sign, and then it would have the word impact. right?
Yeah.
Okay. So think about how people are likely to perceive anything you're about to say or do, especially if you're in a leadership position. You could be in a bad mood and ruin someone's whole week just by not saying hello to them when they said hello to you, or making a face, or making an offhanded comment. Just think about that and use those empathy muscles.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're technologists and it's not our strong suit, right? A lot of us were attracted to technology because we transparently didn't want to deal with other people. So some of us don't have the best social skills.
When young people ask me, if you can give me a list of skills you think that would make a good social engineer? And I said, we're talking professional, right? Professional social engineer. My number one is empathy. And they always look at me like, why? And I'm like, because you're about to attack a fellow human and you're about to dupe them and trick them. And if you lack empathy, you're going to use things that are going to ruin their psyche, that are going to make them feel ashamed and depressed. Like you have to realize that the job you have as this role, you have power to destroy somebody or to help them. So empathy is necessary, right? Now, I can't, sadly, this is a sad fact. Every female CISO I've had on this show has said the same exact thing as you just said, that they had this struggle in getting to where they were because they were undermined because of their gender. And I'm sure you have even more of that because of your race, that you are now doubly undermined. And I can't imagine how difficult it was. But the fact that you were like so positive, like still, right? That stuff didn't beat you down and make you a miserable person. Like you're just still so positive and amazing that's like, I want to throw another question in there. How did you do that? How did you not let those horrible experiences of being undermined and belittled not turn you into a cynic, horrible person?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's an important one. And, high level, the answer for me is community, right? And my community is very diverse. Like some people in my community look like me and some people do not. Mm-hmm. And just being open to that, right? Because surprisingly, there are some people that look like me that have undermined me in my roles.
Really?
Yes. And it's because socially, we are mostly conditioned, all of us are conditioned to see certain people in these roles. Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who the observer is. Society says only certain people should be in these roles.
Yeah.
So for me, when I talk about my community, I'm talking about the Julie community, like the people that support me, the people that pump me up, the people that say, wow, look at how far you've come and look at what you've learned and look at what I've learned from you. I'm amazed. Just having those positive voices helps you stay grounded, right?
Yeah.
We all have something to work on, and you can learn a lot from your naysayers, but it's important to know what your naysayers are really reacting to. I've gotten feedback early on about working on my communication style. And I got feedback from naysayers and I got feedback from yay-sayers, right? The naysayers are like, you're too much. How dare you? Who do you think you are? The yay-sayers are like, hey, Julie, think about how your message may be landing. Put yourself in their shoes, even with their biases and things like that. How would you convince them? So it's a difference between naysayers and naysayers.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing. And then knowing also when to walk away. Some places don't deserve my services.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm generally a positive person, but I think those things would help even someone that's in the middle of the road to you keep perspective, you listen to all the voices and you choose the ones that you intake and you know where they're coming from. Remember the difference between the naysayers and the yay-sayers and take all the information in and contextualize it according to the yay-sayers. That's how I did it.
Yeah, love it. Okay, we got another question from Cesare. Given your experience in building solid security programs at the FBI for more than a decade, Have social engineering-based attacks evolved over that time? And if yes, is the shift related to technology or human psychology, like mental health and self-awareness?
Yeah, okay, so for me, absolutely. I think social engineering has evolved dramatically.
Yeah.
When I first started out, it was mostly phishing emails with obvious grammar issues, right?
Yeah.
Today, the bad actors are crafting like multi-stage campaigns, scraping your data from social media,
Yes.
exploiting emotional triggers, and even creating super believable videos, voices, images. But here's the truth. The core tactic hasn't changed. You talked about it. It's about manipulating trust and exploiting human behavior, getting into the brainware. Empathy means you're a brainware hacker, right? Like that's what you're doing. And so what has shifted is the precision that the attackers have. The tech is more sophisticated, but they're still targeting our psychology, fear, curiosity, urgency, and even fatigue, right?
Yep.
I'd argue that the biggest vulnerabilities now stem from cognitive overload and burnout. People are more distracted, isolated, and overworked today. And that's a perfect storm for social engineering. So yes, technology has changed the tactics, but the root vulnerability is still human. It's still the brainware. And it's getting more complex as mental health and self-awareness become part of the security conversation. So again, here comes that E word again, the empathy. Cybersecurity practitioners, back in my day when dinosaurs roamed the earth, the guidance counselors would tell the kids that didn't want to be too social to go into computers because they wouldn't have to deal with people. So now we have a bunch of 40, 50-year-olds running around that never wanted to be involved with people. But we have to now, right? Like we have to, because the attackers are doing it. The attackers are exercising big E empathy in bold font. And we have to do that too, because we have to protect these folks.
I love it. Okay, let's do lightning round here. I got a couple last questions I always ask.
Okay.
What is one of your most favorite books that you've ever read?
World War Z by Max Brooks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have read it at least 25 times.
I love it. You know what? A lot of times people come on and they give us a book that's about the topic. And I love when people don't. I love when they give us just something they love to read. Because, what we do is we have since 2009, we have a book list that's going on our site. And people go to that as what should I read next? And I don't think anyone's ever recommended that book. So that will be a new one to the list.
I strongly recommend it. It is a series of short stories of what happens in various sectors of society as a fatal pandemic emerges. Transportation, logistics, government, social services, real estate, research. As a cybersecurity professional, it helps me develop that big E. I recommend reading World War Z by Max Brooks immediately.
Okay. Perfect. And if you had to name one or two of the people who mentored you and helped you get to where you are today, who would you say those people are?
Okay. One of them is no longer with us. He was an FBI agent. He was in charge of the Human Intelligence Management Unit. And he was confident in me. He believed in me when I was a newbie in the FBI, a semi-newbie. I had already had a year in, and this was a big role. And I got to do my first cybersecurity project under his watch. He mentored me. He believed in me. He told me straight, this is how you succeed here. This is the tool. These are the tools you need. And I'm going to back you. And that was a big deal. So he was like a mentor and a sponsor.
Yeah.
He passed away a little while ago. He got stage 4, liver. So, but I will never forget him. And then there is another person, also FBI. I basically grew up in the FBI. So this is, the other person, she still talks to me today. She was another FBI unit chief that I had. She also believed in me, and she helped me develop my empathy muscles. I actually model some of what I saw her do. And to this day, like we talk all the time. We were just WhatsApping. So yeah.
And what were their names?
Oh, MB Kinder, FBI, and Martha Williams, FDI.
Just we'd like to give shout outs to people who've made our guests who they are today, right? I have a handful of people that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So it's just nice to think about those amazing people. And now, last but not least, if people want to connect with you, they want to learn more from you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way for them to do that is to visit, well, the first one is my CyberPath coaching website, and it's cyberpathcoaching.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes. So you don't have to remember that if you're jogging or driving. We'll put that in the show notes. And we'll also link to your LinkedIn too.
That's great. And some people don't have LinkedIn Premium, so I know they can't send the messages. But if you go to cyberpathcoaching.com, there is a contact form and you can send me a message and I will reach back out to you.
Excellent. Julie, I loved everything about this. Your attitude, your personality, your answers, just all of it is refreshing. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I appreciate the invite because I love talking about cybersecurity, and my dogs and my mom and dad, they've had enough. So I think this is good for me too.
Yeah. And I hope you all enjoyed it watching the show, and come back next month where we'll have another amazing cybersecurity professional on and we'll get your questions answered. Until then, stay safe. See ya.